Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Naked Eye. I am joined today by a musician who just released his debut single, Brent Logan. Brent, how are you today, man?
I'm doing good, man. How are
Uh,
you?
I'm doing good. I'm actually really happy to have you on because this is actually a first for Beyond the Naked Eye. I've never actually had someone reach out to me to be on the podcast. It's always the other way around where I have to DM them or send them an email or whatever. So I want to initially start this podcast by asking you, why did you want to be on the show?
So I was talking with I'm good friends with Bryden, and you did an episode with Bryden, and also with the single, like it's a good thing to just promote that. And I really wanted a chance to get on, and I heard really good things about you. Like you had went to high school in Owen Sound as well, and I know a lot of people who went to school with you, and I heard good things. And I work with a lot of them, and yeah, I talked about the possibility, and I just thought that be really cool to like kind of open up and show a different side of myself and kind of talk about some things and get a chance to like talk about the song and everything. So
Well, hey man, that's awesome. Thank you. Like, I'm actually really honored that someone actually approached me to do it because, like, it's nice to actually finally start getting that recognition. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was kind of hard at first, but now
yeah,
people are like reaching out to me, messaging me. It's like it is really cool. Um, so yeah, like I'm so hyped to have you on. We talked a little bit off camera before, and like just from that like 5 minute conversation, I already knew I'm like this is gonna be a fire podcast. I just love. I think I also think you're a really well spoken person. So yeah, man, I'm just really happy to like have you on. And another thing I'd like to add is anyone listening to this whenever it comes out, if you want to be on the podcast, just shoot me a message. Like we can get it going. Like I have no problem with that. I think a lot of people really want to do podcasts. I really want that experience, but they're kind of scared to ask because every time I reach out to somebody being like, hey, do you want to be on the podcast, they're always like 100%, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Like whenever they say yes, they are 100% down. So I think deep down people love to do it, but it's just like they're kind of scared to initiate it. So dude, massive respect to you for actually like messaging me 100%.
well, it kind of goes to show that your brand's kind of showing. And like I said before off camera, like you are a really well spoken interviewer, and like it's more so about conversation, and like you can tell that you have put like a lot of work, and you're just like you're just easy to talk to, and that's the main thing with a podcast. And I think especially with the time that everyone's gone through, everyone has a story. You don't have to be a musician, you don't have to be anyone special. It obviously helps if you're like for yourself, if you've got something to kind of like promote, but everybody has a story, everybody has something to say. So again, it just shows like I watched your podcast. I saw the Brad Bishop one, and that one honestly was the one that made me contact you, and I really wanted to do one after that. And I just kind of want to say real quick about the Brad one. That was really cool to see. It was you gave, to be honest, man, you gave something very special to a lot of people. I don't think you realize what you did with doing that. You gave people that were really close friends with Brad a video to actually watch and see him speak. You gave his family like a video to actually like listen to his story and listen and just see what a great person Brad was. And like I remember when I was watching Bryden's this morning, you had talked about like how crazy it was, like just you had like thousands of like a couple, sorry, not a couple thousand, like 1,500 views, and like it was just so different. And like it goes to show how good that interview was and that conversation was more so, but it also goes to show just how great of a guy Brad was. And like personally, what I took from it, like I knew Brad a little bit, like more so after high school. Good friends in the band that I play in. He was good friends with Taylor Marshall and Cody Schneider. You know both those guys too,
Yep.
and they were close friends with Brad. And there's a couple nights. It's actually one story maybe we'll get into later on. It's pretty funny, But we've had some drunken memories and stuff, and definitely things that I'll always remember with Brad. And there's one story in particular that is really funny, and I love that memory of being able to share that moment with Brad. And yeah, it definitely made me a little bit sad, because when I watched it, I wish that I reached out, because he was talking about how big the support was for him, and me being someone that didn't know him quite as well, I just thought that I would like kind of sit back and let him handle his thing, and let him do it, and let him be with the people that he was close to. So that one part did make me a little bit sad that I didn't watch it before his passing, because if I had watched it before, I 100% would have reached out and been like, hey man, sorry for everything that whatever, right? Like just reached out to him and had a conversation with him, because I didn't realize that side of it, and I just didn't want to bother him, you know?
Right.
And so yeah, I just wanted to touch in on that. And one big thing, I did make a note. I wanted to reach out. Now, this is kind of deep to be literally starting the podcast with. I understand.
I'm here for it. I'm here
I did want to say it. I really wanted to say it before. I wrote a note when I was watching Brad's podcast, and I really wanted to mention it in this one. And like, I don't know if he got it from somewhere, but like he fucking said like an absolute movie quote in that podcast. And I wrote it down because I wanted to remember it. And I feel like everyone can relate to it. And I've definitely had this feeling. We're all going through those growing stages of like your early 20s and being like, I feel like sometimes you feel like you can conquer the world, or you feel like you want to, and you're wanting it to happen like now, right now, while you're young, while you're like in your mid 20s, early 20s, and you just want it to happen now. And you kind of forget to live life and just enjoy it and be a kid. And like your 20s are hard, because you see all these people doing things. Like some people went into the school program, they had it all set out. They went into their university program, they got everything set out for themselves, and they're doing great. And then some people took a program, they dropped out, they didn't like it. Like you got so many different paths. Me personally, I have two friends that became a dad in their early 20s. And I have a buddy who got married to his high school sweetheart, and their love story is fucking cute as hell. I wrote a song for them for their wedding, and I have some recordings of that. And I'd like to do that song eventually, but like, and now he has two kids. Like everybody's got a different stage of life. And so the quote that he said was, I was so caught up with how to make a living that I forgot how to live. And he kind of goes on and to say like before that, how like his whole life was about money. Like he was in school for, I think it was business and finance, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, something like that.
And like, yeah. And like, he just goes on to say like, my whole life was about how to make a living, like the best way to do it, that literally I forgot how to live. And the touching moment was when he said that I would never take back cancer, because it's made me like more aware, more self-aware and everything. So that was a really like touching moment to hear, and like almost like my eyes welled up a little bit at that moment. And just like seeing his just persona, he's just such, I don't know, he was just such a good guy, and definitely wish that I had more memories with him, but I'm thankful for the ones that I did, or that I do have anyways.
Well, dude, thank you so much for saying that. I know I've probably touched on this like on a million of my podcasts, but I just always do it because it's something that for me was genuinely like life changing in terms of the podcast. Like there's before that podcast happened and there's after. I think that's how impactful it was. And the reason I wanted to have him on in the first place is because I remember like first seeing the news of him having cancer. I'm like, oh shit, this is crazy. And then seeing the support he got was crazy. Like he got like, I think at the end he had like $90,000 donated, like insane.
Yeah.
And there was so much surrounding his story, but obviously you couldn't really, it's kind of hard to have that conversation in person because it was happening, like he was developing like cancer during COVID. So like you couldn't really see him in person. So it was something I was always interested in and talking to him about it. And I just reached out to him one day and I was like, hey man, you want to be on the podcast? And he didn't really respond for a while, so I was assuming it was not going to happen. And then he reached out one day. I'm like, oh shit, we're doing this. And going into it, I had no idea his story was going to be that insane. Like, there's parts in the podcast where I'm just speechless because just like this guy went through so much like that I don't feel was really represented in the GoFundMe and everything that was coming out on social media. And just hearing his story, and honestly, I probably would have cried if he wasn't so upbeat about everything. Like, just his attitude, like he came in with the podcast, like it just seemed like you just kind of took it in stride. And I think that's the most
Yeah.
insane thing about the whole podcast is how like upbeat and positive he was. And one quote that always kind of sticks with me and is like kind of ingrained in my memory is when he said, "The closer I am to death, the more I feel free." When he said that, I was like,
Mhm.
God damn. Like I was
Shit.
speechless. I was like, holy shit, man, that is crazy. Like I can't. I remember when he passed away because Cole reached out to me before like it kind of went out. I had to put that clip on social media of when he had that clip. It's on Facebook for anyone listening who wants to hear that part in particular. But yeah, like it's crazy to see him go. But man, like I had no idea how like popular it would get. I thought I was like, oh, like 100 views, like that'd be really cool. Some people would share it, but it just went crazy. It had like 500 views in the first day. I'm like, damn, like people want to know his story. And although it was his story and he is a legend for going through with it and talking about it, it was still cool to see people share my content. It was like, oh damn, like people are really invested in this. So yeah, rest in peace,
100%.
Brad. Absolute fucking king.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
know what?
No, and
Go for it.
sorry,
Go for it.
I was
No, go
just
for
gonna
it.
say, just touch on real quick. Like, it was really cool to hear him say like the community and like hearing, how you always got people like, oh, like I'm from a small town, like it's kind of blah, like blah, blah, blah. And there's always so many. When you're from a small town, there's always so negatives, like, oh, everybody knows everybody. But
Mm-hmm.
he kind of touched on it. I was like, it's kind of nice because everybody knows everybody,
Exactly.
and like you got this massive community that, like, yeah, Owen Sound's only like 30,000, but then you've got 5,000, 10,000, Sable Beach, like Tobermory, like all those people tend to like, you got people in Tobermory that went to St. Mary's, like you've got people that are connected to people all over the place here. So it's a lot bigger than your 35,000 from Owen Sound. And like, it's a big community and everybody does know everybody, and everybody kind of, when you hear that happen, because like you don't hear shit like, oh, there's a big like stabbing or something like crazy like that. Like, you don't hear that stuff around here. Whereas in Toronto, people getting cancer and people like, especially like even young people and like those things, because it's such a high population, it's so much more common that there's less gravity of like for people to help. And like there's so many people going through that in high populated areas, where you got an area like this and like somebody gets cancer at 20, like everybody knows about it. The Sun Times puts it in the newspaper, like shit like that. And when something bad like the tornado the other week, like there's a couple of houses that came down. The
Mm-hmm.
guy up the road last year in COVID, that his barbecue propane tank blew up and like blew up the back end of his house. And
Oh
like
shit.
people donated like thousands of dollars because he didn't have house insurance. And he's got the addition built. I think when I drove by it last time, like the siding's just not on, but pretty much everything's back to normal. And like he
Awesome.
got a lot of help from actually a guy that I work with. Did a cycling trip and went to Niagara just to raise money. Like just shit like that, like things like that don't happen in the city. It's kind of more like in bigger communities, it's kind of like everyone spends for themselves, whereas here it's really, you start seeing in those tragic moments.
Yeah, I think that episode in particular made me like have a new love for Grey Bruce just because of how much people like supported like him. It was, yeah, obviously you see the donations and everything, and that's cool. But like actually seeing people share my stuff and talk about how emotional it was like, wow, a lot of people were invested in Brad and his story. So yeah, it really made me like it was such a cool feeling. I can't describe it. Like maybe you're kind of having this feeling now with everyone sharing your single, which we'll get to eventually. But
Yeah. Sorry.
no, it's all good. No, I love this. I'm loving this conversation so far. But yeah, like people sharing it and people really like people even reaching out to me as well it was such an awesome experience. And even though I'm still in college and I'm, my broadcasting career is very much in its early stages, it's definitely a highlight for me and something I'll carry with me for the rest of my life because that was insane. And I remember someone told me like, if you're in any other region, that would not happen. I'm like, and they kind of said like it was a negative thing, but it's like, that's awesome. Like people are just trying to help each other out. Like I love that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say really quickly because I'm really happy that I also am really happy. I didn't really realize how important it was to so many people, but it's important to me because I feel like, whatever happened, I had the same attitude when I released it. And I say have the same attitude now, whatever happened to Brad, regardless if he survived or not, I'm glad his story is out there forever. And I'm glad people can, watch it back whenever they want. But I kind of want to touch on this because I think it's really cool. And I think it's awesome to keep his story kind of going. So could you tell me the funny story you had with Brad?
Yeah. So, I'll try and be like as vague with it as like possible, just because I don't want to like.
Oh, it's that bad,
I don't want.
eh?
I like
Allegedly.
if family and like closer friends are
Hmm.
watching everything. Like, I don't want it to be like a bad thing, but like.
Okay.
I don't know if this was before the podcast or whatever, but like I knew Brad like a little bit. We didn't really know each other in high school and everything, but like we connected after high school, and like I knew him and got to know him through like my other bandmates Cody Schneider and Taylor Marshall. And so there's a couple times like just going back after drinks and pre-drinks and stuff like that before the herb are in. And so at the time, me and Brad, we were like this one girl that I was interested in. Basically, we went back to her friend's place that she was staying at that night, and Brad was going with her friend, and so we're all walking back. It was close to the highway. It was like a cool moment. Me and Brad were like talking a lot and everything. And again, like this is just an awesome memory to have. I love that at least I have like one really fun memory with him. And so we get back to this girl's house, and it's in more like the ritzy area of Owen Sound. So like her neighbor has like this really nice pool, and I guess they're really good friends with them. So she's like, yeah, we can go over and go into the pool. So me and Brad lead the charge, and we go into this like really nice house, just open the gate like we own the place. And they're over at the other house. And then so I'm looking at Brad, I'm like, I don't know about you, but I don't have a bathing suit. And he's like, I don't either. So we both, I was like, well, hopefully the girls follow suit and everything with us, and let's just lead the charge. So we both just like stripped down and we jumped into the pool, and we were laughing and talking. We were really drunk. Like it was all a good time. And then the girls come over, and they're in their they got like either they had full on bathing suits or they're in their bra and underwear. And they're like thinking about it. And then they jumped in and they still had all their clothes on. And me and Brad are like, fuck. Shit. Now we're the two naked dudes sitting in the pool. And I think if I remember correctly, maybe one of the girls or like a couple of them maybe like took their top off later in the pool or whatever. But it was just like a fun time, and it was honestly like it was innocent really, and we were just having a fun time, and there was a good little group of us, and like it was really cool because I had never done that, and I wouldn't have done that unless I was really drunk. So that was just like a really funny moment that me and Brad kind of shared that like never really got told to too many people, but I've told some of my friends since it happening. And like, yeah, it's just a fun little memory of me and Brad and everything. And yeah, it just makes me laugh so much. Fuck, they didn't fucking do it.
That's so funny. You guys just look at each other butt naked, like, oh, this is an L. That's so
Oh
funny.
shit! It was embarrassing, but we were fucking in it together. It was all good.
That's awesome.
So
I'm really, yeah. I'm glad that you got that story out there. People listening to this are gonna laugh their asses off. Shout out to Brad. All right. So moving on now, swiftly. I actually want to talk to you about your music. I want to take this back to like the as early as possible when you first got into it. So my question is,
okay.
what got you into music in the first place?
Um. So like honestly, I've been singing for maybe 3 4 years ago, kind of thing. Not really even like just when we
Wow.
started the band. Honestly, like other than your classic like singing to the radio in the car, whatever. Um, but it was funny. I actually had like a really nostalgia moment with my buddy the other night. I found all my old phones at my mom's house. Like I never sold them. I never got rid of them. So I had like this little like white iPhone 5, and it has, I don't know if you remember the app Playtube, but Playtube was an app that like people loved. And like I think you can actually sell phones that have Playtube on it. Maybe not now, but like for good money when they took the app down, because technically it was not a legal app, and it was basically YouTube, but you could play songs and you would do like, it was called caching them. So basically it was like one of the first apps that you could go and like you could take YouTube songs and YouTube videos and stuff like that and audio, and you could cache them, download them, and have them in your phone on that app.
Mm.
So you actually like didn't, it was like in the time where that wasn't like a big thing. And like downloading phones, you either need to have, I don't even know if Spotify was out at that. I really can't remember. It maybe was, but you had to pay for things anyways, and it was a free app to do that on. And then they canceled it shortly after. So I actually had used Playtube, and because there's a lot of free instrumentals, when I was like 18 years old, I started rapping. And so there's a there's a lot of there's a lot of lyrics and songs in that phone that I look back on, and like, oh man, are they ever cringy?
Oh, okay. I
It's
see. I
just
see what you're doing.
so like I almost wanna, it's hard to use the screen, or else I just bring it in and like do one of them. But like I did have some good songs on there, and like I don't know, just a really cool nostalgia moment. But yeah, so I started at 18, like I started in 17. I started rapping, and my favorite rapper was Chris Webby. And then I kind of got out of the writing for it. I've always loved, kind of like Bryden said too, that's just fresh on my mind because I watched it this morning. But like I've always been big into poetry. And I actually made like a writing website called Brentwood Writes, and did like blog posts, wrote about sports, wrote about like self-improvement, mental health, music, and things like that. And I wrote a lot of poetry with it too. And so it wasn't until I would have been maybe like 20, 21. We used to go to this bar in Sauble. I grew up in Sauble Beach. And we used to go to this bar called Bogies, and it was like it's called the 19th hole. Like it was the bar at the end of the 18th hole at the golf course. And they would do karaoke nights on Thursdays. And it was a wing night and karaoke night. So everyone would just get fucking trashed. Get 2 pounds of wings. You got 2 pounds of wings in a pitcher. I think it was for $32. Everybody was getting trashed there. Like there were just sloppy people there every fucking night. And they had a shuttle service. Like it was
Wow.
amazing. Like it was such a good brand night that like literally they could have the worst weekend ever, but Thursday night held them through, I feel. And it was so much fun. And Cody, actually, Cody and Taylor were building the band, I guess, at that time. And I was hanging out with Cody. I hadn't seen him in like years. And me and Cody went to Hepworth School. I went to Sauble with Taylor, and then Aaron went to Hepworth with Cody. And
Mm.
then Taylor and Cody ended up being best friends in high school. And then me and Aaron ended up being like pretty much best friends in high school too, because we played hockey together. And So Aaron was telling me about the band, and me and him sang Basket Case by Green Day at karaoke. And so that was the music that they're trying to do, like early 2000s, like late 90s grunge type of thing. And so Cody, I guess, heard me with Aaron, like he was there that night and heard me, and he's like, text Taylor, and he's like, I think Brent Logan's our guy, because they were looking for a singer. And they needed a singer and a drummer because Aaron was going to play bass. And then Cody's like, man, like throws his arm around me. You got to be the singer. Like, we're starting this band. And I'm like, fuck it. My life is absolutely going to shit right now. So I may as well be a low life and start singing in a band, you know? So literally, we are practicing out of like Cody's dad's garage. And it was like, when I think back now, it's so funny because we had like the shit ass little setup there, and it was just so much fun. And it's what made me love music, because we just like, it was so innocent, it was so much fun. Like, we just sat there, we would drink a couple beers, we just sit in a circle and then make songs. And that was our big thing, because none of us really knew how to play instruments. And like, Taylor was learning guitar, he was decent, like he'd already started. Same with Cody was good. Aaron was literally just learning on the fly how to play bass. I did not really know anything about singing. I don't know chords. I don't know music, like theory. I don't know anything about notes or anything like that. I don't play instruments. It's just singing. And so we're writing these songs, and it was just a fun time. We got a drummer. So next thing you know, and like I said, Aaron was still just learning how to play the bass. Next thing you know, 6 months later, that was in the fall that we started. 6 months later, in the spring, summertime, we're playing almost like every weekend at the Dunes, and we became the house band. And I shit you not, man, the rush that we got off of our first show when we played at the Dunes, everybody, we just put it on, we made a little Instagram account, and then we shared it on our personal ones. And I guarantee you, all the people from high school that came were just like, let's go see if these guys are fucking shit or what. Let's see how shitty these guys are. And literally, dude, we packed the Dunes. They hit capacity. Wow. They were turning people away. There was a cover charge, and like, they were turning people away at the door. I went to that bar when I was illegal at 17 and 18 with a fake ID. I don't understand, because they fucking knew me, but my ID said Waylon Wilson, and they still let me in, and it was expired. So I was getting in there at like 18, and man, through all the long weekends, everything, this was just a normal weekend in the summer. I've never seen the Dunes so busy, and that's not me being biased. That's literally, I've never seen the Dunes. We did an intermission. I went to go piss, and I'm like, oh, excuse me, guys. Oh, hey, how's it going? Hey. Everyone's yelling at me, and I'm trying not to spill my drink, and I'm like creeping through people sideways, and like, it was fucking wild. And I was so sweaty by the end of the show. At like, the start, we were so nervous and everything, and it was such a fun time. So that's kind of like, the rest, just kind of, you can tell where it's going. Like, we just played lots of shows. We tried to do a battle of the bands. We didn't end up winning that.
Apparently you got second place on Battle of the Bands. Is that right?
We did get second place. That's really cool that you know that. Yeah, so we got second place, and I wish that we won and everything. And yeah, like, we did well. We did a recording. It unfortunately didn't pan out for what we wanted it to. And you never know, there's still lots of time. We could always make a little comeback and do an EP of our old songs that might be in the works. Who knows? But like, yeah, we had a lot of fun. And yeah, it really started my love for music. And then when Aaron had the baby, now he's got a beautiful 2-year-old son. He's awesome. I'm his I love going over there. And Aaron always makes fun of me because I'm a little bit chunky, and he calls me Uncle Gut. So I'm so yeah, I'm his Uncle Gut, and I really love going over there and seeing my friend like become a dad. And I wish that we could keep music going, but like music's just another thing in life for us. Like for me, I'm hoping that I can take it a little bit further, but like Taylor just got a job at Hydro One. I'm super excited for him. Cody's in school for being a firefighter. Like all the boys are doing awesome. Everyone's doing their own things. Like I'm doing music and working hard and doing my thing. And yeah, so like everyone's kind of like spread it out. Everyone's busy and all that. So, but yeah, now I just wanted to take the venture and I started recording in January. I got a little bit off track there, but I started recording in January last year and recorded this one song that I wrote with one of our music influences, Greg. And I started recording at the studio called Canadian Daydream, the one that Bryden also records with. And yeah, so they're an awesome studio, really good guys. Started recording there, and then a year later, I've got 5 songs recorded, and I want to do a release for an EP, but I'm thinking it's going to be more beneficial just to do singles. So I'm thinking that's the route that I'm going to take, and yeah, so we'll see what the future holds for that.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I'm happy to hear that. You kind of just touched on it a couple minutes ago, but yeah, you talked about music influences. Do you have any inspiration? Like, does anyone like inspire you? I know you're a Chris Cornell guy.
I'm a huge Chris Cornell guy. Chris Cornell is like it. It sucks that he's gone now. I wish that I could meet that guy because he is like a huge influence for me. Um, a lot of his songs actually on my Brentwood Writes page. I wrote like a little article about music, and I kind of touch on his one song. And just yeah, he's a very underrated guitar player. His singing style is just like fucking out of this world. Like I wish I could have pipes like that. And I've heard that he actually doesn't sing loud, and he's just like a really quiet singer. He's just really close to the mic. But like when you listen to him, how he belts, like you think that he's absolutely screaming, but like he just has. That's how he keeps his control. Is he's such a quiet screamer and like such a quiet singer in general, which is like really hard for me to understand because I'm a really loud singer. Like for me to sound like my best, I'm more of a loud voice. So I'm more so almost like backing off the mic when I need to. But like Kurt Cobain, super huge influence. I love Eddie Vedder's style too. He was one of the first ones to like do something really different, and like he changes his vowels, which was like a weird quirky thing at the time, and like nobody else did it, so it made him different. And it's yeah, just people that did different things with their voice. And like honestly, even the newer style of Justin Bieber is a really good influence too. Like I love his song Lonely. Um, like that one touched a different chord because you kind of see this side of him that you never really saw. You see like how vulnerable he is with it, and like how this kid became famous and just like handed money at 16 years old, and it is tough. And like even the Demi Lovato, like all the mainstream stuff with her right now, she's going through a really tough time, like mentally with all that stuff too. But yeah, and like Louis Capaldi's a big influence too, of more of like the singer-songwriter type of style, and like just his passion that he has for music is a huge influence for me for sure.
One thing that you mentioned through like just that answer, and I found kind of interesting, was that it sounds like your inspirations are inspirations because they bring something different to their music. Is that something that you kind of want to do yourself, or you kind of want to bring something that's like unorthodox and different?
So we kind of talked about it a little bit before this podcast too. Like the biggest thing with music right now is like your marketing. You're building. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, and like it's all about building your brand. Same thing with you as a podcast. Like you and your questions and how you talk to people, that's building your brand, and like how you promote that is building your brand. And with me reaching out to you just goes to show that you're building it right and people are noticing. And I think my brand is all about, and like how I go about my life just in general, is trying to be, I don't have a lot of confidence in myself sometimes, and I put a lot of guilt on things that I've done wrong in my life, and a lot more than I should, and I know that, and I'm like 99% of the time my own worst enemy. And I think my brand is about being personable and just being honest. And like, I think that shows with that song. And that's like, I remember when we were in the mixing stage of that song, we they put like a little bit of like reverb or like echo effect on it, and I asked them to take it off because I was like, this song, like you listen to the lyrics, like it's all raw. Like I don't like, you can mix, like you still mix the vocals and to make them sound good and full, because there's only, the only spot where it overlaps, and when we actually did something that like overlaps, is that part where it's like friends, money, and time. And then as I'm stretching out that note, I'm singing the chorus over top. That's the only different vocal that's actually like more than one vocal take overlapping each other. It's all just one vocal, very raw, mixed still to make it sound full and big. And but like other than that, that was very important for me in that song, is to like just show the raw ability, and like yeah, and just keep it like very raw and natural, because that's 100% my brand. And like that's, I preach that all the time. And mental health, and like I don't know if you took a look at my Spotify bio, but I kind of write in there like just how important it is for me through my music to try and like inspire people to talk about your feelings, like especially as men. Men have a really hard time being vulnerable and talking about your feelings. And like it's super like, it just needs to happen. And to be quite honest, being in a relationship with a person who really like really loves me is really showing me like how important it is to, you have to be vulnerable in a relationship, because that's how you communicate. Like if you can't communicate to a person that you're potentially going to spend the rest of your life with, which if you're in a relationship and you're not thinking that you want to spend the rest of your life with, get the fuck out, because what are you doing? You're just wasting your own time. But like you have to be vulnerable and you have to open up that side, because if you can't do it with her or him or whoever it is, that person, then like who can you do that with? You know, like you have to be able to be an open book. And unfortunately with this type of brand, that makes me have to be vulnerable and open up and kind of say things that make me feel uncomfortable and that I don't want to post. But it's important for me that people know what's going on inside my head, because I do feel on a comfortable level to talk about that, where there's a lot of people that don't. So maybe me saying it kind of says it for other people. And that's my main dream. That's my main goal, is like hopefully make people feel better about themselves and not feel alone, you know? And that's a big goal for me, for sure.
Wow, that is a lot to digest. I have so many like things to kind of bounce off of you from what you just said. The first thing I want to say is I think you're 100% right in that that needs to be more normal for men to open up about their feelings and their mental health. But I think it's just kind of the norm of society where it's like men, they can't like show those feelings. They can't, they have to be like strong. I think that's just kind of, it's kind of what I grew up in, really. Like my household environment was kind of very old school in that term of like you can't really like show how you feel. You just kind of have to bear through it like a man. And yeah, man, like that's listening to your song and hearing those lyrics, like I could tell how emotional you were when singing it. And the question I have for you is, listening to that was very emotional to kind of get through. How did you feel on your end singing it?
Um, Honestly, that song is really hard to sing sometimes, because it all depends on the feeling. Like, I'm not gonna lie, when I sang that in the studio, I felt very like triumphant. Like I felt like that's what Turn the Page is about. That's why when I was gonna have the original idea to release the EP, I wanted it to call it Turn the Page, because I'm turning the page on this certain thing of life. And I actually wasn't gonna call the song Turn the Page, but it really is. Like I'm trying to leave that behind me. And like kind of a cool story about it is like, if you listen to the start, like you might think that I'm just like saying lyrics just to kind of rhyme things, but like literally, dude, like I would never bullshit the story. It's always the same thing every time I tell people when they ask about the song. It was Canada Day, and it was 3 or 4 years ago, and maybe 2 years ago. I don't know. It's really hard to remember, but anyways, around 3 years ago maybe. And I was sitting by myself on Canada Day, and me and some friends, older friends, kind of had like a rough go, and we just lost our buddy. It was on March 10th, and we he died. He kind of moved away and everything. So like it was really hard because I felt like I lost connections with him, and lots of other things, not to just like put this song on him, but that's where the lyric like losing friends kind of comes from, and in a more so way, and just growing old and growing out of those old friendships that you had too, because you lose touch, you get different interests, whatever. But me and Andy always had like a really good appreciation for each other, and I wasn't as close as some people. There's lots of people that were closer to Andy, and same the other way too. And but this song I wrote, I was sitting in the car, I drove up on the beach in my car, and I'm sitting there and I start writing the song because I just felt so alone. I didn't have any like invites to go do anything on Canada Day. Maybe nothing was really going on that day too. Who knows? But I was all like in the dumps, ooh, poor me type of thing. And I was all lonely, and I just felt shitty. So that's where the story setting kind of starts. Like the tires hit the sand, I contemplate myself again. And then the fog covered glass makes the memories last. Is the water, dude, was like, it was glass. It was no waves, nothing going on.
Wow.
Something with like the weather changing made it super foggy. So it was the fog covered glass makes the memories last. And then not a cloud in the sky, not a star in the sky, clouds cover up the moonlight. So like it was so overcast, there's no moonlight, it was so dark and just like eerie. And
Oh.
so I'm literally just speaking the truth. And then it's like people walk past, fireworks blast through the night because it was Canada Day, fireworks going crazy. People were walking past. I was on like, I think it's the south end. I was by Lone Wolf anyways, on in Sable Beach, right around the corner from my place. And people were just walking past, and I'm like, here I am just sitting in the car being a fucking weirdo and just writing this song. And then the next part goes, and I was like, as I remember what it's like when everything felt so right. And then um I'm having trouble. It's hard to, when you're talking your lyrics like that, it's hard to remember which ones come next when you're not singing. But basically, like the next scene, I'm pulling a beer from my back seat and drinking a beer. I was just planning on, I was like, fuck it, I'm getting hammered. I got a 2-4 Brava in the back seat. I'm getting fucking hammered tonight. And it was not a fun time. So it was me taking a very vulnerable night and making and turning it into something great, and something like actually making like that hardship worth something, and like kind of turning it into something. And that chorus, I think the biggest line for me that I want to kind of talk about is like, I was so naive, and like just that kind of line there is just like being young at 20 and being naive and thinking like you can change so many things, but really you don't have a lot of control of a lot of things. And it's a really shitty feeling when you realize that you don't, and you just feel very naive, you feel like misled, and you're taking pages from different books. And what I mean by that is like I took pages from my influences, like my dad, my like people who influenced me and who have taught me how to live, because I'm seeing this finished product. But you don't see what made them into the person that they are now. You don't see what made your dad your dad. You don't remember that. You're not like you don't remember shit when you're younger. You definitely don't remember shit before you were born. So like you don't see all like the hardships that people go through. You're just seeing the finished products, and what they're showing you is the finished product. And so for me, that was kind of like doing a job that was very close to my dad's job, just like trying to be like different people. But then you realize like you just need to kind of be yourself. And I need to turn the page on feeling shitty about myself, and like just need to get on with it. And for that reason, the third verse was like feeling shitty,
Mm-hmm.
like I wish that this would end. I want to be happy again, like kind of talking how I'm actually feeling rather than setting a scene. And then the fourth verse, or the fourth like little build up part, was my favorite 100%. Like when I was just a kid, not a worry in the world, having fun with friends, running away from all the girls, all my summers off with no bills to pay, getting spoiled at grandma's house when I was there to stay. And then like you're never like breaking hearts, you're not getting your heart broken. Um, riding your bike just for something to do, like it's reminiscing, like, and it's like such a, I tried to end this song on like a good note, and like remembering like this is what made you and the person you are today. So like get out of your shitty feelings and turn the page and like just get out of it. And so that's why that part of the song is super like I kind of changed my mood, and like kind of like I'm happy because it's a happy reminiscing. So yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it like quick. I feel like I ramble on about some things,
No. It's
but
all good. Yeah, I actually wanted to talk to you about the lyrics because I haven't pulled up right here. I mean, my favorite part of the song. I feel like this was really raw. Was your third verse when you said, "I wish that this would end. I want to be happy again. I keep a smile on my face, not to worry family and friends. I could talk to anyone, but it never seems to help me through without a worry in the world, and it's catching up with me like you."
mhm.
Could you like kind of walk me through that? Because that is a lot to digest. You said, "I wish that this would end. I want to be happy again."
Yeah, like it was a lot of like I wouldn't say, I don't want to go like, I wouldn't say that I've ever really had like real like big suicidal thoughts or anything like that, and that anything, but like you kind of, when you're down on yourself, you kind of sit there and you wonder like, what will my funeral look like? What, like, are people going to be, would people be really sad? Like, have I made an impact on people's lives? Have I touched people in the way that I want to, like, in their lives? And like, am I a good friend? Am I a good brother? Am I a good son? Like, those are the things that kind of go through you in those moments. And like, I just, I felt like I was so in the dumps when I wrote this song, and I just wanted like I wanted that feeling to end. And like I felt like I lost a bit of myself in ways that like I was a really happy kid. I like some like I've always been super outgoing. Anybody that knows me, they'll tell you like there's never a dull moment, whether you're laughing at me because I'm being absolutely stupid, or and saying something just ridiculous, or I'm making people laugh. Like, and that's something that like it's so stupid because I know that. And then I feel like I'm not causing enough happiness around me in people's lives. And it's just like it's those feelings that like, am I impacting people? Like what am I doing with, like, am I actually like making people enjoy their lives more? Like those are the things that you should be doing as a human, and like being a good friend, and that's what makes you have good friends and build good friendships. So that was more what the happy if or sorry I wish that this would end, I want to be happy again. And then like same thing, just like, so then the next part um of like I keep a smile on my face, not to worry family and friends. And that for me is like a very big thing, because that's what we talked about, dude. Like being a man and shoving those feelings down and just trying to move on with life. And it got to a point where like I impacted my friendships in a negative way, I felt. And maybe that's just putting guilt and shame on myself again, like I said. But like I felt like with my anxieties and stuff and feeling like I'm not being that good friend. I'm not like I'm bringing people down and I'm not bringing enough happiness. That's what it felt like, was like I try and keep a smile on my face, but like inside my head, there's so much going on. And it just felt like it was endless. And that I just never really like, I never talked about things. So then I felt like in friendships, I just kept talking, and then I was outreaching too much, and I made it stressful on my friends that were really close to me. And that was a really rough feeling. And so then I really quieted it down after that, because I was like, I'm saying too much. Like I'm just doing that too much. And that makes you feel really shitty. So, so we talked about the first two, which is this would end. I want to be happy again. Keep a smile on my face, not to worry family and friends. I can talk to anyone. Okay, so talking to anybody, like everybody has that feeling. Like you can talk to anybody, but sometimes it feels like you can't. Sometimes it feels like you can't open up, and you can't. It doesn't help. You can talk to anybody about anything, and you have all these supports around you, but you're not dealing with it yourself. You're not helping yourself with that. You're just getting like this, it feels like bullshit of like, yo, you're such a good guy, like everybody loves you, and it just comes out and you take it like it's bullshit. And that's how I felt in that way of like, you're just saying that because you're biased, because you're my family or you're my friend. Like you have to, like, what else are you gonna say, you know? So it just gets to a point with that stuff. And then catching up like you, or yeah, and it's catching up with me like you, kind of, that was a little bit more of an Andy lyric. And when my buddy Andy passed, it it was kind of me saying like my whole life is catching up with me, and it's feeling like I've lost a piece of myself. Like it's feeling like I've lost someone just like you, type of thing, like how I felt with Andy. And I felt so numb. Like I honestly feel like I don't think I cried for like a year and a half or a year after Andy passed. And like one day I just like broke down and I had this like big breakdown about it. And it was good because it felt good to feel something. I felt numb for a long time. And it felt good to actually like cry about him. Because when I got told on the phone, I was so shocked. Like nobody expected it. It was a car crash. And it was a very tragic car crash. And thankfully it was just him. But yeah, it was just like nobody expected it. It was just so sudden. So it was a tough situation. So yeah, that's what that little phrase or that little like verse meant, kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah, I think that verse, it probably is my favorite verse of the whole song because it does feel very emotional when listening to it. And it's something I can really relate to because hearing what you just said is just, it's kind of scary because I kind of went through the same thing. Um, I was kind of known in high school as a class clown, and I'd make people laugh and I do dumb shit in class, like just for the like the laugh of it. But when I went home, I was just miserable. Like I couldn't describe it. Like it almost felt like me making people laugh was my worth. If I couldn't do that, I couldn't really do much else. So, and I think that's why a lot of people who are funny and who people who are kind of act out like that are depressed. It's just because that's kind of their outlet. It's like, okay, if I can make people laugh, that's a great feeling. Like when I make somebody laugh, it's just a great feeling. And it was kind of an escape for me whenever I was feeling down. It was like,
Yeah.
I can make somebody feel a very happy emotion. And that was something that was really rewarding. Another thing that you said that is kind of scary because I went through almost the exact same thing was my cousin passed away a couple of years back. Like it was just a freak accident. He died overnight. Like it was crazy. But I remember going to the hospital and he was in intensive care and he was brain dead. Like it was pretty much all hope was lost, but I didn't feel anything. Like I was
Oh,
numb. Like I didn't, I couldn't, everyone was around me was crying, but I just kind of stared at him, just lifeless. Like, wow, this really just happened. And I didn't really feel anything until I actually went to his funeral. Once we are all there and the scene was real and he was in the casket, I just broke down and started crying uncontrollably. It's kind of crazy how you can feel nothing and then it's just that explosion of emotions.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very like all of those situations like that, and that I was kind of a little bit of the same with Andy's funeral. Like I didn't bawl, but like I definitely my eyes were welling up, and that's what I mean, man. Like I didn't really like have a good cry about it for like a solid year and a half. And that was super scary because I've always been a very emotional person. And like things that upset me like on that level should have been crying. And then I was like, holy fuck, what the fuck's wrong with me? Like, why am I so numb right now? Like, this is a scary feeling. I don't like that. And like it almost felt like I became not myself. And that's why I kind of like talk about of like all the confidence to try and just be yourself. And like that's all I'm trying to be, is because I feel like I've lost bits and pieces of myself. And it's not that I want to be the person that I want to be, but I want to gain those personality traits that I used to have. I want to be that kid that really didn't give a fuck, and just like I'm always doing things that are just me, and being that silly, goofy guy that like absolutely has no filter and just like says something stupid that like makes Jesus, did you go to school? Like just saying things like that. Like I miss that guy a lot, and I'm starting to feel like him again more and more every day. But yeah, that's really sad, and I'm sorry that you went through that with your cousin. Like that's a really shitty situation. And yeah,
I got a
um,
tattoo of him actually
there was
in his honor. There it is, everybody. Love him, love him.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a crazy experience, and that kind of like what you just said is like when I was going through it, I'm like, why the fuck am I not feeling anything? And that happens to me a lot whenever I experience like whenever something tragic happens, like regardless of if it's a death in the family or if, like my pet passed away, like I just initially I don't really feel anything, and it's kind of scary. And I think it's kind of like that mindset, that old school mindset is kind of drilled into me of like, you can't feel anything because you're a man, you have to bear through it. And I think even though I think that's a ridiculous mindset to have, and anyone listening, please do not have that mindset. Like open up to your emotions, cry if you have to. Like it's crying is beautiful. But even though that is
Yeah.
something I know is ridiculous, it still happens to me. Like whenever something happens to me that's sad, I just can't feel anything. I don't know why. Like, do you have that? Do you still experience that, or have you changed a little
It's
bit?
kind of like that. It's kind of like that feeling of like it's what happens in life. I mean, you live and you die. When like, and that's such a morbid feeling. Like, um, and just like that, it is a really shitty way to live your life. And like sometimes when especially when like people like me being in the nursing home, when these people pass away, like I had one lady that I was super close with, and like oh man, like that one messed me up. And I think that was when she passed. I think that was one of the first times that I cried since Andy. And like I only have one grandparent. I pretty much only had one grandparent my whole life, other than my grandpa, who passed away when I think I was around 10. So like I knew him a little bit, but like it's hard because I don't have as many memories as I'd love to have with him. But it's been my grandma since day one. I've always been a grandma's boy. That's why I made that line, like getting spoiled at grandma's house when I was there staying. I would stay there for summers and shit and stay with them. And just like that feeling of losing someone she was such a good listener, and we would talk about stupid things sometimes. Like she got sick one time and I went and bought her flowers and like wrote a card, and I was like, thank you for just being you and listening to me and whatever. And this is just like a resident at the nursing home, and I felt very, very, very close to her. And when she passed away, it really broke me down a bit. And yeah, when you see things like that, like of these people, like you can't really have too much sympathy for them in a way because they've lived a full long life. Like they like especially when they're the ones that have lots of family visiting and you can tell that they're very loved, like they were clearly like a very good role model for their family. And like they were clearly a very good person. They lived a long life. Like it's like it's good in a way. They're finally free, kind of what you said about what Brad said. Like the closer you get to death, the more free you feel. And that's even more of a scary situation because when you start feeling free, like it's like, oh shit, like what's going on here? Am I gonna like am I gonna go soon? Like, is that something? Is there like some weird feeling to that? Like, because I'm starting to feel very free, and maybe that's just me clearing my head and things like that. But yeah, no, it's a very hard thing when you lose people around you and things happen, and you just feel numb. I did
Mm.
want to touch real quickly. You said people that deal with things with humor. I can't stand that, man. It's one of my like I do it too, but like when my friends do it, especially close friends, it fucking blows. It blows because like I'm there for you as a friend. And I'm trying to talk to you about it. Like, stop saying jokes. Like just talk to me about it. Get it off your chest. Like I feel where it really impacts me is with my friends that I'm very close with that are dads, because even more so of feeling like you don't have time to deal with your feelings, they're fucking parents. Like, and I totally get that. And I'm never gonna be upset with them, like with those that type of things, because I do get it now. And they are busy and it's not a priority. Like, and that's kind of a sad realization when you're a parent, you're not the priority. Your child is the priority, which is a crazy thing that like yeah, it's very hard to comprehend right now, especially because I don't have kids. But like it's like a really sad realization, and I really wish that they would open up sometimes and and talk to me about things. And maybe it's on me a little bit too, because maybe I'm not going, how you doing? Oh, I'm good, man, like working lots or whatever. How you actually doing? Like, what's going on? Like, are you doing good mentally? Maybe I'm not doing that enough. And that's kind of a lesson, like everybody that's listening, like you got to say that shit to your friends. Like, don't just do the how you doing and then they're like, oh yeah, pretty good, pretty good, and then do the how you actually feeling. Like, tell me about your life, like what's going on, how whatever, right? Like, have those conversations with your friends, especially over this last little bit. Like, make that more of a normal thing.
Hmm.
Text your friends. I know when Andy passed, all of our core friend group that hung out, like we would text each other just like love you with a heart and all the time. And now we've kind of broken away from that, and that was a really cool feeling. And because like, don't be so fucking caged, like, oh yeah, I'm a guy, I can't send a heart emoji to another guy. Like, fuck that. Be comfortable with who you are. Be comfortable with your sexuality. Like, you're good. Like, these are your friends that you've spent your whole life with. Like, I do love my friends like they're my brothers. I have friends that I've been friends with since I was 2 years old in fucking preschool. That's such a cool feeling. And we have so many memories together. How can you not love a person like that? How can you not love a person that's been there for you like no other person? And whatever, right? Like, text your guy friends, text your girlfriends, whatever. Just say you love them the odd time. Like, that's a huge life lesson for sure.
Hmm. I think like a reason why humor is so often used in times of like in times of darkness is just because it's a double-edged sword, really, where because it's like if you use humor as a coping mechanism, it shows that you don't really want to talk about the actual topic at hand, which is a bad thing. But it can also be a good thing because it's like, okay, this is terrible and you're going through it, but it's like at least you can go through it with a smile on your face. Like a lot of comedians, I think now are so funny because of all the fucked up shit they went through. So I definitely think there is merit to being, using trauma as kind of and turning it into something comedic. But again, I think you are 100% on the note there when you say like, yeah, you should really open up and tell people how you feel. And yeah, like I think especially now more than ever, I'm just really open with people. I don't really care if people are like, oh, you love me, that's gay. It's like I don't care. Like, well, first, I'm bisexual, so I don't care. And second, like, yeah, like if I love you, man, I fucking love you. Like I will say it, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you kind of touched on a big thing there, like just like I get the comedy sense when you're in a group of people, but like when you're one on one with your buddy, feel free to talk to him. Don't do the humor bullshit because you're 9.9899 whatever percent of the time your buddy can see through that shit. And I always see that and I understand that, like, yeah, maybe he doesn't want to talk about it, but I wish that they would open up and talk to me about it, because I'm never going to judge them. I've opened up to them about some crazy shit and that has happened in my life, um and I just want to feel like I'm doing the same for the same amount of support that they've given me. And it sucks to have that feeling of like, I feel like there's not a lot that I can do for some friends. But yeah, and like on a different side of things, I do have a song. It's called Cougar Gracie, and I kind of wrote it in like a comedic type of way of like a really shitty thing that it didn't happen to me. Like I was a part of it. Like it is what it is. But like, yeah, I was making, it's a song that's like kind of like a funky bluesy, and then it goes into like this cool like bassy like funky song, and it's just a cool song. And it's such a like a it's such a shitty moment in my life, and I feel like I wasn't a great person in that moment in my life, but I'm making like a song and making kind of fun of that. And so yeah, like right there, you are kind of using humor, but it's kind of like to talk about something that happened and like make it funny, like kind of have some fun with it. Cause I was seeing like, I like to be serious, but I do like to still have fun. And that's why I kind of wanted to change the narrative here in our conversation and be like, oh, like this song, it's really funny. And like, I'm excited to release that one eventually when it comes out.
Well, steering the conversation onto my next question, I kind of want to ask you, what is the goal with music now? I mean, you released your debut single. It looks like it's getting quite a bit of success from everyone sharing it, and I listened to it. It's fucking mint. What do you want to do now? Do you want to release another song soon, or so I heard that this song took a couple years for you to actually like put out. Is that going to be the trend, or do you actually plan on putting out more music soon?
Well, so it's not that it took a couple years. Like I actually just finished recording this song and getting it mastered maybe 2, 3 months ago. And I probably recorded in the studio maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And so all the recordings have been recent. It's just when I wrote these songs, I wrote them 2 or 3 years ago, or maybe even more. And I haven't done anything with them. And that's been something, again, another meaning on Turn the Page is like turning the page on all these old ideas, so then I can have space for all these new ones. Because rather than thinking about like what could be with these songs that I've done, now I'm thinking about, okay, like what's next? Like what are the songs that I can like kind of cross off my list next, because there's a lot more. So in answer to your question, like I definitely want to do something with music. Do I want to be famous with it? Like of course I would. Like I'm not going to sit here and lie to people and say that I wouldn't want to become famous. And that, like, I think that comes with the confidence and being proud of what you've done. And I do have a lot of reasons to be proud, but I also try and float that line where like I want to be proud, but like I don't want to sound like an asshole. Like being not confident with yourself in ways also provides this like humbleness, and it lets other people see like, wow, he's not an asshole about his music. Because I do think Turn the Page is an amazing song. That's why I released it and made it my first song. I love that song to death. Like I love that song. And I hope that it really impacts people. But there's also things that like I totally could do more with it, but I was just so sick of feeling like I wasn't enough, my music wasn't enough, and I just wanted to release it, and it's time to just there's comes a point where you can play around with it all you want, but you got to just release it. And so I think for the next little bit, like I said, I've got 5 songs that I recorded with the recording studio. And I think for those ones, I'm just going to be doing singles. That's the future goal here. I've heard a lot of things to do, like 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, do a new single drop. So maybe that might be something that I do, but I'm gonna spend this next little bit for sure on promoting this song because this is the most important one I find out of all of them, and the most message sending one for sure. I have It's a whole mix of songs, so I'm really excited to hear the feedback because you got this one that's a singer songwriter, more like folky type of song. And then the next one that I've already picked to release is called White Noise, and it's like a pop punk song. And it's very like it's cool. It's very Blink 182 type of style is what I've
Hmm.
gotten for like influences basically from it, or like Green Day type of style. There's a little bit of like a guitar solo in it too, especially near the end, like hard drums and everything, more of like my regular rock style that people know me from with Big Island. There's a song called If I Could Change, which if you look at my Instagram profile, you can see like a little teaser that I did a while ago. And that was supposed to be my first song, but I fell in love with Turn the Page. So If I Could Change is like a heartbreak ballad, piano and violin song. So it's kind of more personal, but more on the heartbreak side of things rather than self-growing, self-contemplating type. There's Now and Then, which is like a very, very like rock and roll song. Like if you listen to it with headphones, it's the full on like stereo effect. So comes in and you got guitar. It's like dun, dun, like ringing out guitar, and then the drums kick in, and you got a bass drum, and they're coming in on right ear, then another guitar, then another set of drums. It's cool. So it's a very like we kind of modeled it off the song Heavy by Gloria Sons. Um, and by saying model, when I wrote it, I write all my songs no instruments. So I have melodies in my head. Like when I wrote Turn the Page, they wrote the notes, they wrote the songs, they wrote the arrangements behind my lyrics. So like I already had the arrangement and my ideas and I gave those to them, but they just literally just from me singing, they said it's like I've never done this type of writing for someone before. And like this isn't floating my own like or toot my own horn or anything, but like they said it's really easy to write for you because you sing very clearly and like I can actually hear each note that you're hitting. So it's really easy to go uh note by note kind of thing and figure out the arrangement for you. And all of these songs, literally, I think the only one that changed up a bit was If I Could Change. That's the only one that changed a little bit of the because the way that he was playing it, I was like, I like that. That's actually really cool. Like maybe I can change up my lyrics a bit, and it worked out really well. But all the other songs um, were exactly how I wrote them, and they literally just put music in behind them, and it was an effortless transition, honestly. So I'm really excited for those.
Oh, hey, man, if like I'm excited for you, man. Your first song, you started off with a bang, man. I actually really like it. I threw it on my one of my playlists. So like
That's
I
awesome.
think it's really good. So I'm like I will listen to it more in the future. Um, One thing I kind of wanted to ask you about is, and you kind of touched on this a little bit a couple minutes ago. Is this something you want to pursue full time? Now, I've asked people, like musicians in the past, and they're always kind of give the same answer, whether like it's a dream to, but you got to be realistic and you got to, do something else for work and then just kind of do it as a hobby. Do you see yourself kind of, working towards that model, or is this something you really want to pursue full time?
Well, so I think it's a super complicated question because there's a lot of aspects of it. But like music is something that I want to surround myself with. So one thing that I haven't told a lot of people is in the fall, I'm we'll see. I'm supposed to be looking at doing a marketing program, and it's through Eastern College. It's a college out of New Brunswick, and it's all online, so I can still work at the nursing home and do it's 20 hours a week. So I'm looking into doing the marketing because I've had a couple Zoom calls with people the last couple days, and it's been crazy with the promotion, blah, blah, blah. And learning how to promote your music is the biggest thing. It's all networking. Like one thing that I actually learned is this one guy, he said, use the 5 and 5 method when you're on Instagram for hashtags. So he's like, um, I'll load your post up with about 26 hashtags, which is just seems insane to me. Like I can't think of fucking words. But one thing that I didn't know was he's like, don't use, I always thought like use the ones that have the most, like 53, 2 million, because like tons of people look at them. Well, when you're starting to create and when you're actually starting to like do an account like that, that's a wrong way because you haven't built up your algorithm. You haven't made your profile stronger of an algorithm than the other accounts. So yours is going to be already, you post it all the way down at the bottom. So he said, go to the lower one, stick between the 100,000 to 500,000 following list. So then you have more of a chance to be at the top. And then the 5 and 5 method is he's like to start engagement on your profile, take a hashtag. I didn't realize how in depth this goes, by the way. Like this is something that I literally learned yesterday. And he's like, take a hashtag, type something that relates to you. So singer songwriter, single coming soon, whatever, like different things like that, artists that are related to you, or things like even mental health with this song is very related to that song. Go through those hashtags, pick 5 of them, go through those hashtags, and then click on the first one, scroll, look at the post. When you see something that you genuinely like it, comment, and say something nice to the person. Then maybe start some like messaging feedback with this profile. And what you're doing is you're showing Instagram that you're not a spam account. When you're just putting hashtags on hashtags, Instagram's algorithm puts you as like almost a spam account. So they're floating your account down to the bottom. But when you're actually engaging and showing that you're not like the are you a robot test or whatever, that's what you're doing, is you're actually working your algorithm. And I'm assuming there's probably like some score behind your profile. But I didn't realize how in depth this goes. And like it does make sense in a way. And once you start building that up, you get onto the explore page. So this is all stuff why I went in detail there. That's all stuff that's super important to know for you being with your podcast, for anybody as a musician. Those are things that's the most important. And the way I saw it, I don't play music or I don't play instruments. And it's really hard. I'm having a hard enough time juggling doing music and working on top of trying to learn an instrument that takes a lot of time off of my plate. And I'm not gonna lie, you sit down, you play and you're shit, and you're like, fuck this. I'm fucking done. People play these things for like 6 years and they're just getting good. Like I don't have time to fucking do that. So I'm just trying to focus on what I've got. And I'm a good songwriter without instruments. I'm a good singer without like practice my singing, do vocal exercises, get my singing voice where I want it to be, write more songs, do the things that I can do well and perfect them more. And then now add in marketing. And now I don't have to pay for a marketing team. I know how to do Google ads. I know how to like start knowing how to do all those things. And then maybe this is why I brought this up. Maybe I can start a marketing company, or maybe I can be a marketer for a music company. Not only am I gaining inside like music people and connections, but I'm able to market my own music, and then I can do it as a side job too, and like help market and run, like help mentor other musicians, and I can make money off of that. So 100%, I do want to do music as a goal, but I think that's I want to have music involved in my life. Um, I don't think the way to do it now is almost like go out on the road and tough it out. Like that used to be what you had to do. You'd fucking stick it out with your band. You'd live in some shitty little apartment, move down to the States. You'd tough it out. You'd tour all over the place. now playing live, man, no, most people that don't know the music industry, I've been told by some of the old boys, back in the day, being a musician was an awesome job as a teenager because you'd make 100, 200 bucks, maybe sometimes for a big gig. And that back in the day, making 100 bucks for fucking playing a instrument for 3 hours, that was the best job you could get. Well, fast forward all these years, the price hasn't changed. When you're a single musician, you're looking at getting $300 for a gig, or that's most, mainly around 150, maybe 200. And a price for everything has gone up. And then you look at all the time you've invested, like unless you're playing a shit ton of gigs, you can't, it's really hard to make it as a musician. And I just feel like we're at a point in technology where you don't have to make yourself struggle like that. There's different ways around it.
Well,
And
you know what, man? I think you actually have a really good like head on your shoulder. So I think I think it's realistic that you can pursue music full time. And you kind of you just talked about a lot, and that's a lot to package. But this kind of leads into my final question. What are your like short-term goals in the next 5 years? What's ideal for you?
my short-term goals would definitely be get that marketing experience behind me, and then kind of try and get into something with marketing and get a job that I more so enjoy, even if it's not so much in music, but get a job like the only enjoyment that I get out of my job right now, man, is like having those connections with the old people and like the people that I work with, and it changes it. But more so, I'm just like I don't feel like I'm in the right spot. So I want to get out of that mindset, and I want to have more fun and feel like I'm more accomplished with my job every day. And then with music wise, I really want to try and make as much music as possible, and just be patient with myself and grow myself more mentally, and be able to not feel afraid to put my talents out there and record these songs and let them go, kind of thing, and build my brand, kind of like, I think that's just the best way to say it, is just build the brand and try and market myself as much as possible and just make good music. Doesn't matter what genre, what style, like just make good music, man. Like that's all it's about, is just doing that. So I've been getting, you touched on it before there. I've been getting so much support, dude. And like, I can't even like comprehend how good that is. And there are so many people that have been sharing, and like a message to all you guys. If you made it to this spot in the episode, I know it's been probably pretty long here, but um like thank you so much for everybody's support. And like it's incredible to see that small community type of style, like everyone's been sharing it and helping me out and helping create this. And it doesn't matter if you have the same friends, you're making different friends. Doesn't matter if you only have 100 followers, like that's maybe literally 90 followers, maybe, or 90 people that haven't seen me because I don't have them. And like every single share helps. And that's a huge thing that people don't realize, is sharing. Like same thing with your videos, like sharing is so huge, and that's how you get to new people. It's free marketing, it's free distribution, really. And it's huge, and not enough people know how much that helps people out in my situation and in your situation too.
Well, hey man, I think that's a great way to kind of end this podcast, bro. Thank you so much for coming on. I think we had a really great chat. I've never really dug this deep before, like from my perspective on a personal level. So, bro, thank you again so much.
No worries, thank you for having me, man. That was a really good time. It was a good conversation.
One thing I kind of want to do at the end, just just before we wrap things up, is I want to give you the opportunity to promote whatever you want, man. So for this next minute or however long you want to take, the stage is yours, man.
So for my song, I'll try and keep it short and sweet. For my song, just stream it, do it on any platform that you can. Spotify, run up those, like when you see that song, make sure you click my name, follow it. That helps everything. The biggest thing with that song on Spotify is the more streams I get in this first week, the better it is. It gets put on, if I get like around like 4 or 5,000 streams in the first week, it gets put on the Spotify Spotlight playlist. And that's going to open up where I actually start reaching people that don't know me and people that are all around the world, people that are looking for up and coming artists. Like, who knows, maybe a producer, someone, but like there's endless possibilities. So I stress that, like, make sure you're like following that and listen to the song, share it with some other people that haven't heard it and whatever, wouldn't hear it, and just run it up, because like it's gonna help me out and I'll be less annoying on social media. So I'm gonna be really annoying over this next little bit. I will have a song for you. I'm hoping, I haven't really planned anything yet, but I'm hoping within the next 3 weeks there will be another song. But I'm gonna run this one as much as I can. And just thank you so much for all the support. Like, I woke up this morning and I really do feel loved by a lot of people. I got messages from people who I haven't heard from in like a couple years and haven't seen since COVID. And like, just thank you so much. And all your feedback means a lot. And it really helps me, give me motivation to keep going. So I really appreciate that, everyone. And thank you, Brian, for having me on this podcast. Like, this is awesome. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure on my end as well. So yeah, thank you for coming on. That has been another episode of Beyond the Naked Eye. I'm your host, Brian Correa. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.